Isabella Kiriton, and this is Rachel Winfield. Welcome to Crash Course AP Lang. Today we're going over a summation of being in Mrs. Bell's class from September through June.
So, to begin AP Lang, we're not going to talk about rhetorical analysis or this guy. We're going to talk about one of the most memorable events that happened all year. On the first day of school, we were sorted into Harry Potter houses. In case you missed it, the link is still on Miss Bell's website.
Wait, Rachel, which house was Nick Sherwin? I mean, had to be Slytherin, right?
That's a funny question, Belle, but we only have 10 minutes to cover information of the utmost importance, not picking over who to watch out for. But yes, I'm sure he got Slytherin. Thanks, Thought Bubble.
So if all of AP Lang wasn't just about Harry Potter, then it had to be about something just as exciting, right?
Right.
Something like eating babies?
I knew you were going to bring Jonathan Swift into this.
So, Crash Course viewers, one of the most iconic reading assignments we got, way back in October when our annotations were still being graded, was to read Jonathan Swift's A Modest Proposal, which, spoiler alert, proposes a plan to eat babies. This is possibly single-handedly the most important material covered in all of AP Lang. Not only because it taught everyone how to annotate, even when you have absolutely no clue what you're reading, but because the class of 2018 learned that the way to end poverty is to sell babies, boil the babies, and then eat the babies as a delicacy.
Okay, well, there were some important lessons in there too. Like when I learned I could teach myself 15 tone words in the 43-minute class period before the tone quiz.
Ms. Bell may yell at you later with a vindictive tone for that one, Rach.
She probably will, though. I'll just write a rhetorical analysis that appeals to her Hufflepuff sensibilities.
Speaking of rhetorical analyses, we should probably talk about them, seeing that we spent 7 months learning how to write them.
To score a 9 on this essay, you need to remember 3 things: ethos, logos, and pathos.
Ethos is used when an author wants to establish their authority on a topic, just like when Jonathan Swift used facts to say that eating babies would have rejuvenating effects on the economy.
I mean, you're not wrong.
I'm never wrong, Rach. Pathos is a feeling to emotion, like when Swift talked about the cute, sad, poor children forced to live in poverty, which could be saved if you donated to Rachel's bank account at the information below, and helped us come to the obvious conclusion that the only way to solve this issue with poverty is to eat the children.
That was using logos, appeals to logic. And I think that logically we should stop talking about eating babies and more about donating to my bank account.
On that note, I guess it's time for the open letter.
Okay, here we go. Oh my gosh, Belle, is this a copy of A Modest Proposal?
I thought you might want to see my annotations. Maybe you could give me 2 bonus points so I'll have higher than an 89.5?
Okay, so let's get to something else we learned. How to write an open argument.
Trust me, Rachel does not need any help learning how to argue.
That's biased information and you're not a reliable source.
So for everyone here not fluent in SAS, the open argument essay gives you an opportunity to use your prior knowledge and take a stance.
You're presented with a controversial point of view and asked to give your opinion.
The important part is having strong evidence to back up your argument. You can use anything from personal anecdotes to historical evidence.
For example, I can make the argument that Miss Bell should give me extra credit for my final project. My evidence would be that due to the emotional stress of my life, I need extra credit to personally make me feel better for the multitude of shortcomings in my life. Miss Bell would counter this argument by saying she doesn't care and that I should have turned my homework in on time. Thus, I would have successfully received a 1 on this essay without any extra credit.
At least you tried, Rach. You might have been more successful trying to convince 1700s Great Britain to eat their children.
You're right.
Towards the end of the year, there was the much anticipated AP test, which all of us obviously did not tweet about or discuss whatsoever, especially over the internet.
Well, of course not. The test involved 3 essays and a multiple choice. We had to write a rhetorical analysis, a synthesis essay, and an open argument.
And Rachel found a way to bash Donald Trump in every single one of them, regardless of the prompt.
I couldn't help it. The man's colloquial dialect and use of alternate facts are the perfect recipe for a rhetorical analysis worthy of a 9.
Unless Mike Pence is grading your essays.
In all seriousness, the synthesis essay got all 30 of us to pretend like we have serious opinions about libraries whilst never stepping foot in one.
The rhetorical analysis was just a journalist flaming a room full of her peers. So basically, Miss Bell every time Shriram opens his mouth.
For the open argument, the College Board tried really hard to act like they weren't being political and failed miserably.
Before that, we had a multiple choice section, which was so awful that the College Board asked us to never speak about it again.
Well, you're not like me, and the first time you actually read the footnotes is not on your AP exam.
The thing that we learned this year was about propaganda through reading Mouse.
You know, Mouse was a good book because Isabella actually read it.
Hey, it was a good book.
It was a graphic novel that taught us about life during World War II and the story of my main man, Vladik.
When we finished reading, we researched propaganda and wrote an in-class argument.
Don't forget the Cornell notes that ruined my grade, Isabella.
Oh yeah, we also had to take notes that Rachel didn't do on important quotations and moments from the novel. For our next segment, we're going to discuss current events AP Lang style.
Every Friday, Miss Bell let us give our unwarranted and generally unappreciated opinions on topics such as politics,
Milk.
human rights,
And milk.
and new technology.
And most importantly, milk.
First up, last week, Donald Trump decided to have the USA leave the Paris Agreement, which was an agreement between world leaders to combat climate change.
Furthermore, the list of countries also not a part of the agreement are Syria and Nicaragua.
Ironically, Nicaragua refused to sign the agreement because they believe it didn't do enough to help the climate.
Good job, America.
At this point in class, we would all give our opinions on the current event and actually pretend to consider each other's point of view.
If you want to hear Rachel's point of view, you can just check out her Twitter.
The first semester of AP Lang was during an election year. We watched the presidential debates and discussed the rhetorical strategies each candidate used.
After the election results, Miss Bell decided that maybe we would just never discuss the election again in class.
That was probably a good decision.
Before we go, let's not forget to mention one of our favorite things from AP Lang. Satire.
How could we forget?
Well, thank you for joining us today for Crash Course AP Lang.
Have a great summer and see you all next year in AP Lit.
Don't forget what they say in John Green's hometown.
Don't forget to be awesome.